Listina Euro, slow your breath for a moment. Do not rush past these words. This message did not arrive by accident, and it was not released in a loud way. It came quietly, the way truth always does when your soul is finally tired enough to hear it. There is a pause around you right now that feels unfamiliar. You may think it is emptiness or delay, but it is neither. It is restraint. It is heaven placing a gentle hand on your shoulder and saying, Euro, enough. Stop here. Euro. You have been moving for so long that stillness feels unsafe. You learn to survive by doing, fixing, explaining, holding everything together with tired hands and a brave face. You learn to keep going even when your heart was screaming for rest. And now, because movement became your language, silence feels like failure. But I tell you the truth, Euro, you are not failing. You are being relieved. You have done enough. More than enough. You have prayed enough, tried enough, waited enough, forgiven enough, endured enough. You have bent yourself into shapes you were never meant to hold just to keep peace, just to keep hope alive, just to keep love from leaving. You carried burdens that were never assigned to you. You took responsibility for outcomes that were never in your control. You tried to become the answer when you were always meant to be the receiver. And heaven has been watching. Not judging. Watching with care. Counting every tear you wiped away before anyone could see it fall. Listening to every prayer you whispered without confidence, without poetry, without strength, Euro, only honesty. You wondered many times if your effort was wasted, if your faith was misplaced, if your patience was being misunderstood as weakness. But nothing you offered was ignored. Nothing you carried was unseen. There comes a moment in every soul Euro's journey when effort stops producing fruit. Not because the soul is lazy, but because the season has changed. You are standing in that moment now. This is the place where striving becomes interference. This is the place where pushing harder actually delays what heaven is trying to deliver. That is why you feel tired in a way sleep does not fix. That is why your spirit feels heavy even when nothing is visibly wrong. Your soul knows what your mind is still learning. Euro, you are not meant to do this next part. You keep asking what more you should do. Heaven is answering with one word, nothing. Not because you are unworthy, but because the work has shifted hands. What you could do, you already did. What you could carry, you already carried. What required your obedience, courage, and endurance, Euro, you gave it fully. Now comes the part that requires power greater than yours. Let me tell you something gently, because your heart has been bruised by urgency and fear. God does not need your exhaustion to prove your faith. He does not need your suffering to validate your worth. He does not need you to break yourself to move on your behalf. You were never meant to be the engine. You were meant to be the vessel. You kept trying because you were afraid that if you stopped, everything would fall apart. You believed that your effort was the only thing holding things together. But hear this clearly, Euro, what is truly meant for you does not depend on your constant effort to survive. It depends on divine order. And divine order does not rush. It does not panic. It does not collapse when you rest. You have spent so much of your life trying to make sense of Euro, oh why not now Euro, and Euro, oh why not me. Euro, but you are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are being kept in the palm of a God who never rushes what he designs to last. If things had unfolded when you demanded them to, they would have met you in your unready state. The same door that could have led to breakthrough would have become a burden too heavy to carry. Timing is not just about opportunity. Euro, Euro about your capacity to sustain what you receive. You were Euro unworthy then. You Warina Euro T unfaithful. You were simply still trying to write the ending yourself. You were praying but still gripping the pen. You were believing but still bargaining. You were trusting, but only as long as control remained partially yours. Theta Euro S not Philuria Euro, Theta Euro S human. You didn't Euro T know that surrender is the language of strength, that release speaks louder than resistance. But now, your hands are open. Now, they are empty enough to receive what once would have slipped right through your clenched fingers. And this time, when it comes, you wanna Euro T grasp it in fear. You will welcome it with rest. You have exhausted yourself explaining your heart to people who were never listening. You tried to justify your spirit to those who only heard through filters of their own insecurity. You Euro VE spoken truths into deaf ears and apologized for being misunderstood. You have carried guilt that never belonged to you and shamed yourself for wounds that weren't Euro to your fault. You Euro VE rehearsed conversations that never happened and replayed memories like a courtroom trial that never ends. But beloved, it ends today. You can put down every piece of evidence you Euro VE been collecting to prove your goodness, your value, your sincerity. God already knew your truth long before you said a word. This is the holy pause Euro, the breath before resurrection, the stillness before dawn breaks through the horizon. This is the sanctified space where heaven whispers, A Euro orist now. I will handle what happens next. A Euro. Rest does na Euro T mean indifference. It means confidence. It means trusting that the one who governs galaxies can govern your life without your supervision. It means believing that peace does na Euro T require everything to be perfect Euro, it just requires you to stop resisting what you can Euro T change. And yes, I know rest feels foreign to you. You Euro V been trained by pain to stay alert, to anticipate hurt before it happens. You learn to see threat in calm moments because quiet used to mean danger. You taught yourself that rest was unsafe, that if you let your guard down for even a second, chaos would return. Theta Euro S what pain Disa Euro, it rewires your instincts until safety feels suspicious. But God is undoing that wiring now. He Euro S teaching your heart a new rhythm, one that beats without panic. Peace is not fragile. Peace is not built on circumstances. Peace is the presence of divine authority doing what you cannot. You are allowed to stop fighting. You are allowed to stop defending yourself against accusations that no longer hold power. You are allowed to stop explaining what was never truly misunderstood but deliberately misheard. You are allowed to stop trying to convince others of things they Euro VE already decided not to believe. You are allowed to stop seeking closure from those who can't Euro T give what they don't Euro T have. Release them. Release the expectation that they will ever understand. They may never apologize, never realize, never return Euro and Theta Euro S OK. Their recognition is not the gatekeeper of your healing. God is. He is not waiting on their admission of fault to promote you. He is not waiting for their cooperation to vindicate you. Your victory is not dependent on human validation. God works outside of public agreement. He restores you privately before revealing you publicly. Even now, while you feel paused, He is in motion. Conversations are already unfolding in rooms where your name is being spoken with honor. Doors are closing in places that were never meant to house your future. Truth is rising like dawn, unveiling lies that once seemed stronger than reality. Resistance is weakening. The storms meant to break you are dissolving in their own exhaustion. What looked immovable is shifting. What felt permanent is being peeled away. Heaven is relocating obstacles while you sleep. Do not mistake stillness for stagnation. This is not a stopped story. Eta is a sacred sequence being orchestrated beyond sight. This is strategic silence, divine recalibration. The sound of heaven working is often quiet. The most powerful miracles rarely shout. They hum softly beneath the surface until revelation erupts. You do not need to supervise the process. You do not need to refresh your spirit every hour for progress updates. You are not behind schedule because the schedule you were measuring yourself by was never yours to begin with. There is a rhythm unfolding that didn't begin with you and won't end with your understanding. You are part of something vast, something holy, where even waiting is an act of worship. You don't need to check whether the blessing is still on the way. You don't need to stand at the window of your soul every morning, scanning the horizon for signs, wondering if the promise got lost in transit or if perhaps the address was written in invisible ink. That anxious vigilance has already done its work. It has worn grooves into your heart, deep enough to hold both hope and exhaustion at the same time. Now the invitation is simpler, gentler: release the watch. There is a peculiar cruelty in the way we sometimes treat ourselves when the waiting stretches long. We begin to interrogate our own worthiness. Did I pray hard enough? Did I believe fiercely enough? Was there a moment of doubt that slipped through like a crack in the foundation, letting the whole structure wobble? Did I speak carelessly, act selfishly, fail spectacularly enough times that the promise was quietly withdrawn? These questions feel righteous at first. They masquerade as spiritual responsibility. But after a while they reveal themselves for what they truly are: a sophisticated form of self-punishment dressed in religious clothing. You don't need to question whether you disqualified yourself. Grace does not operate on a merit system so fragile that one misstep sends it running. If it did, no human heart would ever hold it for long. The beautiful scandal of grace is that it insists on staying even when every part of us screams that we are no longer eligible. It lingers in the doorway when we have slammed every other entrance shut. It waits beside us on the floor when we have fallen too many times to stand again on our own. You have not cancelled the appointment. The invitation remains open, not because you earned another chance, but because love does not keep a ledger of demerits. And you don't need to fix what only grace can rebuild. There are places inside you that have been broken so thoroughly that no amount of striving, apologizing, self-improvement plans, or positive affirmations will ever mortar them back together. The cracks run too deep, the missing pieces too many. Trying to repair them yourself is like using school glue. A shattered stained glass window. The effort is earnest, but the result is only more distortion. What is required here is not your craftsmanship but your surrender. Grace is the artisan who works without schedule, without consultation, without asking permission. It moves in the dark hours when you have finally stopped tinkering. It gathers shards you thought were lost forever and fits them into patterns you could never have imagined. What God is building cannot be rushed. This is perhaps the hardest sentence your impatient heart will ever hear. We live in an age that worships speed. We measure progress in hours saved, tasks completed, notifications cleared. We have been trained to believe that anything worth having should arrive before the kettle has finished boiling. But the divine operates in a different tempo altogether, one that feels maddeningly slow until you realize it is actually precise. The oak does not apologize for taking decades to reach its full height. The child does not rush the 9 months in the womb. The stars do not hurry across the sky. Everything sacred grows according to its own deep rhythm, and that rhythm is trustworthy even when it makes no sense to our clocks. Rest can never ruin what faith has already sealed. This is the quiet revolution at the center of the invitation. We have been taught to fear rest as a kind of betrayal, as though pausing means we have given up, as though lying down is the same as lying to ourselves about how much we still care. But rest is not retreat. It is reverence. It is the recognition that the story is no longer being written by the force of your grip. When you lay the pen down, you are not abandoning the page. You are making room for the true author to finish the sentence that has been waiting for your hand to move aside. Your one task in this divine exchange is so disarmingly simple that it almost feels like a letdown: return to the sacred simplicity of being human. That is all. Not to become more spiritual, not to ascend to some higher plane, not to master new disciplines or unlock secret levels of faith. Just come back. Come back to the body that carries you through the days. Come back to the lungs that rise and fall without your permission. Come back to the small, ordinary miracle of being alive in skin that sometimes aches and sometimes sings. Breathe deeply again. Not the shallow, guarded breaths you have been taking while bracing for the next disappointment, but the full, unguarded inhale that fills every quiet corner of your chest. Let the air move like water, finding places that have been clenched for so long they forgot they could open. Exhale slowly, as though you are releasing not just carbon dioxide but also the weight of all the things you were never meant to carry alone. Eat without guilt. Sit at the table and taste the food. Let the warmth of soup move down your throat. Let the sweetness of bread rest on your tongue. You do not need to earn this nourishment. Your body is not a battlefield where calories are enemies and hunger is weakness. It is a temple that has carried you faithfully even when you cursed its slowness, its softness, its need. Feed it with kindness. Let the simple act of eating become a small rebellion against the lie that you must punish yourself to be worthy. Sleep without fear. Close your eyes and do not keep one ear tuned to the sound of crisis approaching. The night is not a threat. It is a cradle. Let the darkness hold you the way a mother holds an overtired child, without explanation, without condition. You do not have to stay awake to prove your vigilance. The one who never slumbers is watching over the hours you give to dreams. Trust that the world will still turn while your mind is quiet. Walk among trees like the world isn't falling apart. Step outside. Let your feet meet the earth. Notice how the bark feels rough and ancient under your fingertips. Listen to the whisper of leaves that have no opinion about your timeline. The trees have seen centuries of human panic come and go. They stand unbothered, rooted in the same soil that holds your own fragile steps. Let their patience burrow into you. Let their stillness remind you that not everything urgent is eternal. Speak softly to yourself as though you were someone you are learning to love. This may be the most difficult practice of all. The voice inside has grown harsh from years of self-criticism. It knows exactly which words cut deepest because it has spent so much time studying your wounds. Now you are invited to change the tone. Not to silence the voice that would be impossibly but to gentle it. To speak as you would speak to a beloved friend who has been through fire and still came out breathing. Oh you are tired, you might say. It's okay. You are allowed to be tired. You tried so hard. You might whisper. Even when no one saw, you tried. These are not empty platitudes. They are medicine, slow-working and deep-reaching. Return to the rhythm of ordinary life and find God in its quiet corners. You do not need to chase the spectacular to encounter the holy. The burning bush is rare. The still small voice is common. Heaven hides itself in the gentle moments euro, folding laundry with hands that have carried too much, washing dishes. While steam rises like quiet prayer, watching light settle on a windowpane in the late afternoon until the glass looks like honey. These are not interruptions to the spiritual life. They are its very texture. The divine moves most profoundly in what looks the most mundane. We have been conditioned to believe that God shows up dramatically euro, on mountaintops, in visions, in sudden breakthroughs that make headlines in our personal story. And sometimes he does. But more often he arrives in the background, unnoticed until years later when we look back and realize the ordinary was laced with eternity. The cup of tea you drank on the morning you thought you could not go on. The stranger who smiled when you felt invisible. The way the rain sounded on the roof while you cried yourself empty. These are the places where heaven slips in without fanfare, wearing the clothes of the everyday. Ita euro es not that God has stopped working in the grand. The large movements are still happening. The promises are still alive. The story is still being written on a scale too vast for any single lifetime to contain. But right now he is reminding you to see him in the small because the small is where you are. He is not asking you to ignore the mountain. He is asking you to trust that the mountain is being moved even while you are learning to love the valley. You have done enough. Those 4 words may land like a foreign language on ears that have been trained to believe there is always more to prove. You have carried enough euro, grief, responsibility, unspoken hopes, the weight of other people euro's expectations layered on top of your own. You have wept enough tears to fill rivers. You have questioned enough to earn a doctorate in doubt. You have explained yourself, justified yourself, defended yourself until the words ran dry. And still you stood. You have fought the good fight of faith not by moving mountains with power, but by standing still when everything inside you and outside you screamed run. That is a courage most people never see. The world celebrates the sprint, the leap, the dramatic pivot. It rarely applauds the one who plants both feet and refuses to budge when fear is blowing full force. But heaven sees. Heaven records every moment you chose to stay when leaving would have been easier. That staying is its own kind of triumph. Now it is time to rest euro, not because you are weak, but because you have been found faithful. Rest is not defeat. It is not laziness dressed up in spiritual language. It is the natural posture of someone who has finally handed over the blueprints. You have drawn your part of the map as honestly as you knew how. You have walked the miles you could walk. Now step aside. Let the architect take the pencil. Let the builder move the stones. Rest is the bravest thing you can do when everything tells you to keep fighting. When the change comes euro, and it will not arrive chaotically. It will not crash through the roof or explode in fireworks. It will come quietly, in the same spirit that you learned to let go. You will wake one ordinary morning and notice that the sharp edges of the ache have softened, like stones smoothed by years of river. You will reach for bitterness out of habit and find gratitude instead, warm and surprising in your palm. The delay that once felt like rejection will slowly reveal itself as preparation, as though every month of waiting was a hidden classroom teaching you exactly what you would need for the next chapter. The thing you thought you lost will return differently. Not as a carbon copy of what you first imagined, but redeemed, right-sized, refined. It will carry the marks of the long journey euro, the stretch marks of waiting, the quiet strength of having been held through silence. And you will recognize it not by how closely it matches your old blueprint, but by how deeply it now fits the shape of your healed heart. When you look back, you will not mourn the waiting. You will marvel at it. You will trace the long arc and see how the silence shaped your hearing until you could finally distinguish the voice of love from the noise of fear. You will see how the stillness strengthened your trust until trust became your default posture instead of a sporadic choice. You will understand that the holding pattern was never punishment, it was protection. It kept you from taking flight too soon, before the wings were fully formed, before the wind was right, before the sky had finished clearing. God was never late. He was never distracted. He was never indifferent. He was aligning everything so precisely that anything earlier would have been incomplete. Every delay was a mercy. Every closed door was a redirection. Every long night was a cocoon. The timing that once felt cruel will one day feel compassionate beyond words. Stay where you are long enough for peace to become familiar. Not the kind of peace that flashes through for a moment and disappears when life raises its voice again, but the kind that stays. The kind that sits with you quietly, asking nothing, proving nothing, simply being. Let it settle into your bones the way sunlight settles into a room after a long winter. Slowly at first, almost unnoticed, then all at once you realize the cold has loosened its grip. Let peace teach your body that it is safe to stop bracing. Let it show your heart that it does not have to stay alert for danger every second. Peace does not rush. It is patient with you. It understands how long you have lived without it. Do not hurry to prove that you have moved on, healed enough, learned the lesson, graduated from waiting. Waiting is not a punishment. It is a place where something deep is being formed without noise. Seeds do their most important work underground. Roots grow in darkness before anything green dares to rise. What you are becoming does not need an audience yet. It needs time. Let peace unpack its bags in your life. Let it decide where things belong. Let it rearrange what striving once cluttered. Stay soft in a world that trained you to harden as a form of survival. You learned early that softness could be dangerous, that openness invited wounds, that feeling deeply sometimes meant bleeding openly. So you learned to protect yourself. You built armor out of logic, distance, humor, silence, strength. And that armor saved you. It truly did. It kept you alive when life was unkind and people were careless. Honor that. Thank it. But understand this, armor that saves you in war can suffocate you in peace. Now the invitation is different. Now you are being asked to loosen what once had to stay tight. To lay the armor down piece by piece, not all at once, not violently, but gently, with respect for how long you wore it. Softness does not mean forgetting what you survived. It means trusting that you no longer need to fight every moment as if danger is imminent. Softness is strength that has learned it does not need to shout. It is courage that no longer wears sharp edges. Let your tenderness breathe again. Let yourself feel without immediately explaining or defending or fixing. Let joy arrive without suspicion. Let sadness pass through without judgment. You are allowed to be porous again. The world does not get to demand your hardness forever. Your heart was not designed to be a fortress. It was designed to be a home. Stay open even after disappointment tried to shut you down. Disappointment is clever. It arrives quietly, promising protection. It tells you that if you expect less, you will hurt less. If you hope less, you will lose less. If you love less, you will survive more easily. And for a while, it sounds wise. It almost works. But what it never tells you is the cost. Closed doors keep pain out, yes but they also keep life out. You are stronger than the lock disappointment tried to install in your chest. You can choose to loosen it. You can oil the hinges slowly. You can crack the door just enough to let light in again. You do not have to throw it wide open all at once. Openness does not mean recklessness. It means discernment paired with courage. It means trusting yourself enough to believe that even if pain comes again, you will know how to survive euro, and more importantly, how to remain yourself through it. Stay willing to believe that gentleness is not weakness. The world often confuses loudness with power, sharpness with intelligence, dominance with strength. But gentleness is what remains when the fire has done its work. It is what is left when ego burns away and fear loses its grip. Gentleness is not fragile. It is refined. It is steady. It is rooted. You have been through the furnace and you did not lose your tenderness. That alone speaks volumes about who you are. Many come out hardened, closed, bitter. You came out with your capacity to feel still intact. That is not accidental. That is sacred. That is evidence that something larger than pain has been shaping you all along. Now hear this clearly, the work is no longer yours to manage. Heaven has taken over. The hand that guides stars and seasons is not overwhelmed by your life. You do not need to micromanage the unfolding. You do not need to check timelines or measure progress or worry about whether things are happening fast enough. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be for what is forming to finish forming. You are allowed to rest from the role of holding everything together. You are allowed to step out of constant vigilance. You are allowed to be the beloved instead of the coordinator. The one held instead of the one holding. Let that permission sink in. Let it feel strange if it needs to. Let it challenge the part of you that equates worth with effort. You are loved without earning. You are supported without performing. So breathe again. Not the shallow breaths of urgency, but deep, unguarded ones. Notice how your lungs have been faithful to you without asking for recognition. They rise. They fall. Again and again. Even when you forgot to care for yourself, they did not stop. Let your body teach you what faithfulness looks like. Let it remind you that not everything requires your conscious control. Rest again. Let your shoulders drop from around your ears. Let your jaw unclench from years of holding words back. Let your hands open from gripping what was never meant to be carried forever. Let go euro, not because you are giving up, but because you trust what is holding you now more than what you were forcing before. This is not surrender born of exhaustion. This is surrender born of wisdom. You do not need to understand every detail of how it will unfold. You do not need proof at every step. You only need to stay euro, stay soft, stay open, stay euro long enough for what is holy to finish what it began in you. And it will finish. Not hurried. Not sloppy. Not incomplete. It will finish with care. What is coming will not ask you to become someone else. It will ask you to be more fully yourself. More honest. More grounded. More at peace in your own skin. The best part is not something you must chase. It is something already moving toward you, aligning quietly, preparing gently. You can rest now. Truly rest. Let your nervous system learn a new language. Let your heart practice trust again. Let your soul stretch out instead of staying curled in defense. Nothing is being lost in this stillness. Everything essential is being gathered. The best part is already underway.